This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth, for competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why I have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty, for the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy who have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. I'm joined by my colleague and friend, Judah Friedman, who's on the line with audio. He's on the run. I guess they're after him. Just joking. They're after all of us, for that matter, all conservatives, Republicans, people of faith, those who believe in the vision and creation of our founding fathers. And no one is more after us than our brain-dead, criminally-minded so-called president, Joe Biden, who just this week gave a speech, again accusing Maga supporters, meaning supporters of President Trump, as being the equivalent of Nazis. We're going to talk about a number of issues with Judah. We're going to talk about Harvard and Claudine Gay, who was forced to resign for not standing up for Jewish students who were attacked with anti-Semitic language and physically. She now blames racism because she's a Black woman as being dismissed, despite the fact that she was found to have plagiarized at least 40 times and counting. We're going to talk about Iran and the lack of resolve by the Biden administration, or regime as we will call it, in taking on Iran, as our troops have now been attacked over 140 times and counting. We'll talk about Trump and his claims of immunity and how that's being treated by the courts, and of course, the border, with that moron Alejandro Mayorkas doing an interview on Fox News this week, basically looked like a prisoner of war, would not answer any questions about our porous and open border, which is causing not just fentanyl to come into this country, but likely terrorists. Get ready for a terrorist attack. So Judah, welcome to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Let's start with Biden and his attacks now. He's desperate. They give him a script. They jack him up with steroids or adrenaline or whatever to get him to talk for a few minutes. And now he's attacking Trump supporters as more than deplorables as Hillary Clinton did. He's calling us Nazis.
Well, I mean, it's right out of their playbook. The good thing is it's not working anymore. So even when you bring up Claudine Gay and using that vast right-wing conspiracy, it just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't play anymore. People are the media cabal got broken when Elon Musk took over Twitter, and these things are just not working anymore. So have at it. Keep on keeping on. But people see right through it, Larry. They don't think she got fired because she was Black. Everybody knows she got fired because she was a plagiarist. So if you want to play the victim and just add more votes to the Republican Party, so please keep on doing it.
Well, don't think she was fired. You know, Freedom Watch has an anti-Ivy League strike force. She got to keep her near $1 million per year salary. That's a pretty good deal. I don't know of any college professors, frankly, that get $1 million, or for that matter, are worth $1 million per year. So clearly it's reverse racism. She kept it because she is Black. I mean, that's the bottom line. If it was a white guy, they'd be thrown out the door. You don't have to look for other employment, assuming they could find it after being smeared. Talking about Musk, that just as an aside, the National Labor Relations Board, I believe, made a ruling just this week that he wrongfully fired employees after he took over at Twitter, which is now X, over the fact that they were not loyal to him and were excoriating him in public. Now, if you can't fire an employee for disloyalty or going after the boss, we do live in a communist socialist world. So this is the NLRB of our so-called government. But let's talk about what's going on in the Middle East as well, Judah. You've got Iran. There's over 140 attacks on American troops. We basically bombed what is in effect a couple garbage dumps, in the last many months. And, finally they did a drone strike and took out one leader in Iraq, which is hardly a fight to the finish with regard to the Houthis and all the Iranian surrogates. And of course, Biden continues to be afraid of Iran. Do you have any theory on why he's not going after Iran and why he's not taking them out now when we have the opportunity?
Yes, Nobel Peace Prize, plain and simple. All these people think that it's the Obama doctrine of capitulation, and they think that there's some sort of prize at the end of the road for having achieved nothing. Uh, yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the opposition leader visited the Knesset in Israel, and the person that's running against them, and of course who we should be supporting, and he said they're not going to do anything. Iran will not act, and all I could think is they want the prize. They whatever prize that is, they haven't learned from history. It's the Jimmy Carter doctrine, and this is what we're left with.
What do you mean they're not going to do anything? I don't understand.
They're, we're not going and attacking Iran. We're not going and attacking any of the people of the proxy. So I hate that word proxy. All that means it's Iran. The word proxy is like is if you told me to go and rob a bank, Larry, you'd still be we're part of the same deal. Okay, so the proxies are Iran, and people have to understand that there's no such thing as a proxy. If you're paying somebody to commit a crime, you're part of that cabal.
Well, I think it's my theory, and I think there's some truth to it. The Iranian intelligence services are very sophisticated. It's not by accident that the FBI's largest field office that investigates Iranians in this country is in Los Angeles, where you have over 1 million Iranians living. Most of them, good Americans. Actually, they built Beverly Hills in effect, but there are many who are agents of the supreme leader and others. In fact, in the Valley, there's over 40 Persian, of course, Iranian, they like to say they're Persian, but they're Iranian, networks that accept advertising with monies laundered through Dubai by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And I think that Iran has a dossier on Biden and perhaps Anthony Blinken and others bigger than even our own CIA has, or the FBI, in terms of his illegalities and criminality. And I believe he's being blackmailed, or they got him money under the table, as communist China, Ukraine, and Russia did, laundered through various sources. So I don't think it's just the Nobel Peace Prize. I think at this time when he's in a fragile condition, health-wise, and dealing with his son, who is not likely to do time, but still is under the gun and is affecting him politically, he doesn't want to open the floodgates of negative information that may have been gathered by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard and its intelligence services. So that's my theory. Let's talk about something else as well, is that a judge in Washington, D.C. this week, who is compromised and corrupt, not that any of them are not in the federal court in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter whether they're Biden, Trump, Bush, Obama, or Clinton appointees. They're a bunch of hacks. Frankly, regrettably, it's the capital of corruption. They scratch the backs of those who put them in power and also the establishment. But this judge, Amin Mehta, ruled that Trump could be tried in a conspiracy theory for the death of a Capitol policeman who died of a stroke several days after January 6th. The basis for him doing that is that Trump has no immunity. The DC Circuit, which is the appellate court of the district court where Mehta sits, has ruled that Trump has no immunity, despite the fact that anything he said or did at the time of January 6th was done while he was president. Now, this is an unbelievable precedent. The case is going forward just on the basis of what the family of this Capitol policeman pled in the complaint. At the same time, the Supreme Court is considering this issue of immunity. But layer that on a case that I brought years ago against Hillary Clinton, when she used a private email server, which is not authorized by the State Department or the government in general. That then was hacked James Comey, FBI director at the time, admitted that by 7 adversary countries. The ambassador to Benghazi, to Libya in Benghazi, was then murdered, Christopher Stevens, along with 2 of my client's sons, Ty Woods and Sean Smith. Obviously, the coordinates of where they were located got out to terrorists. I sued Hillary Clinton the same way that this family sued Trump, claimed there was no immunity. There was no immunity. Hillary Clinton did not have the right to use that. And I also sued her for defamation, which she defamed our clients after she was Secretary of State. That was dismissed by a very leftist judge, Amy Berman Jackson, and then affirmed on appeal. So I'm going to be going back to this court and saying, look, you can't have it both ways. If Trump's liable for not having immunity, then certainly Hillary Clinton should be. So reopen this case. But it tells you something, Judah, and I want you to comment on it. Depending on who you are, you'll get a different decision in the courts. And the oath of office the judges are supposed to take, and they do take, is that they will rule with regard to the person. They will rule with regard to law. Now, we're going to talk about this in the next segment, because if we don't have a legal system that is responsive to the American people, that treats it fairly, we are in a revolutionary mode. So I want people in the interim to go back to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause. You know, I'm the founder of Judicial Watch as well as Freedom Watch. I currently run Freedom Watch. But I did it because I saw this disparity in the legal system and just how corrupt it has become. And then it morphed into being much more than just simply Judicial Watch. Go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause. We need your help. We need to get bigger. We are your Justice Department with tax-deductible contributions. I'll be right back with Judah Friedman. We're going to talk about the state of the legal profession today, which is frankly a cesspool. Stay tuned. I'm back with Judah Friedman. Judah, give us your thoughts on what's going on with Trump. You know, it's interesting as well. Not only is he now enmeshed in a conspiracy case, a wrongful death case in Washington, D.C., when he never participated in any violence, had nothing to do with the death of this Capitol policeman who died, you know, because he had a stroke, not because anybody hit him over the head, much less Trump. But, you know, Trump is also now, you know, subject to being disqualified in various elections throughout the country. He has 4 criminal lawsuits that are coming due, more civil suits and everything else. And this whole issue of immunity for government officials is now being turned on its head just because Trump happens to be running for president. So I want to get your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, it almost seems like the whole legal system has been turned upside down just to get Trump. Look no further than New York, right? They look at all the people that are being sued for past crimes just so they could have opened up for 1 year past sexual assault stuff. So it's civil wise that you could sue. So it's listen, Larry, the left is willing to do whatever it takes to win, something the right's not. Whether we agree with that or disagree with that, it's a frightening thing that they're willing to break the Constitution and tear it apart. And maybe that's the longer goal and that is their goal, is the tearing down of the Constitution. They just simply do not believe in our value system. And that's what we're witnessing right now, Larry, is really good versus evil. And what's scary is evil's winning.
Well, you know, and the corollary to that is that we don't have a legal system that is metes out justice fairly. You know, they call it a two-tier justice system. That's what Hannity always calls it, not others. It's more than that. It is a total dictatorship by the judiciary to do whatever they please. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment as well. They don't care. They're not accountable on the federal level. They're not elected. They believe they're there for life. They're not really there for life. They serve for good behavior. We've only impeached about 8 of them in our 200 plus years, and they were impeached because they were either drunks or didn't show up to work, or both, mostly, rarely for bribery or anything to that effect. And the American people see this. And of course, that was, I believe, the flashpoint for not an insurrection, but an uprising, a protest on January 6th. The straw that broke the camel's back was the Supreme Court, who refused to hear a well-pled case by the Attorney General of Texas with regard to the election irregularities in 2020. Now, it's interesting. We're going to talk about this when we come back. But Trump is not confident that he will win at the Supreme Court level on the disqualification of his candidacy by Colorado and Maine and soon to be other states. He thinks he has a good chance of losing at the Supreme Court. His lawyer, Alina Habba, issued a statement to that effect just in the last day or so. And it tells you just how corrupt and compromised the legal system is when obviously a totally unconstitutional decision by these states with more to come. And the former president himself, who's rarely someone who's negative, thinks that he's likely to lose. So that's an interesting fact. And also from the issue of immunity is that, the reality is that, in my view, no government official should have immunity. And that's something in our third Continental Congress we've talked about, making a fine tune to the Constitution to remove it. They should be held accountable if they've committed a crime. But Trump has committed no crime. January 6 protesters have committed no crimes, yet they're going to prison with these hack establishment judges. And today it's them and tomorrow it's you. And that's why you need to support Freedom Watch, because we have lawsuits that are pending to overturn prosecutions and convictions of J6 based on illegal surveillance. And we also have, we are defending some of the people who have been wrongly accused and being forced into making false confessions if they want a lighter sentence. So stay tuned, but we live in a dictatorship, Judah. It is not just from the left, it is from the establishment in general. And they go along, they go with the flow. And even Trump is not confident that with 3 handpicked Supreme Court justices, that they'll give him the right to run in the primary and the general election in 2024. We'll be right back. Again, stay tuned. We've got more to discuss. Many important issues are on the table and need to be hashed out. I'm back. This is the longest segment on Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Judah, we have time to flush this out. But we saw this week an interview that was done by Bret Baier on Fox News with the Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas. I got to tell you a somewhat humorous story because, several months ago, I was going through TSA at an airport in a major city, and they always have on the monitor a picture of Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security. He controls TSA. And I said to this African-American female TSA officer, I said, "How can you stand looking at this guy all day long?" And she said to me, "I try not to." So, that's where we are today. So he appears with Bret Baier on Fox News. Baier gives him a powder puff interview, or they couldn't have got him to come on. The guy is a moron. It looked like he was a prisoner of war, would not answer any questions about the number of illegal immigrants that have been flowing into the United States, particularly in the last several months, blames it all on Republicans that they didn't give him enough money to hire more agents and that the system's broken, and then just walks off looking like Alfred E. Newman from a Mad Magazine cover, what me worry. And yet here's the hypocrisy, and this is why, the Republicans, frankly, have lost the confidence of the American people as well, is that rather than impeaching Biden, do you think Mayorkas does what he does on his own? This stooge, this useful idiot, is put up by Biden and the Obama people in and around Biden to open the floodgates of immigration, illegal immigration, because it is believed that, lo and behold, as this thing goes on and on and on, these will become Democrat voters ultimately. And in fact, in 2 states in particular, California and New York, illegals can get driver's licenses, and then they can use that to be able to vote, even in federal elections. So this is, again, what we're dealing with, quite apart from the fentanyl, quite apart from the human trafficking, and quite apart from the terrorists who are running across our border. So give me your thoughts on this, because the Republicans, they don't go for the jugular. Rather than impeaching Mayorkas, you should be impeaching Biden. But they have no desire to do that. They're just playing the game with their impeachment inquiries because they want Biden to be there on November, whatever, that first week in 2024 when you have to vote for president, because they want this very weakened, brain dead, moron criminal to be their opponent. And this is what the American people hopefully will see this, because neither party, frankly, is worthy of your support. I might add, in a self-serving way, support Freedom Watch, because at least we're trying to do something and we do something. Judah?
No, I think you're completely right. Listen, I at this point, I think we could all assume they're not going to impeach Biden, right? I think that's a safe assumption, Larry. But the biggest issue next week, I think Johnson is bringing 60 Republicans to the border. How many more times do you need to go to the border? Like, what is this fixation with traveling to the border? We know what's going on at the border. It's been what, almost a year and a half now? How the hell does Mayorkas still have employment? I mean, how does he have employment? How does Pete Buttigieg have employment? How do any of these people have employment? They're not qualified for their jobs, Larry. This should have been an easy thing. You have the Congress, impeach Mayorkas. I get it. Go for the big guy. But you know what? Go with Giuliani's, what, I can never remember the exact, what is it? The broken glass, the shattered glass. You know, you go for the lower level people, and then you work your way up. That's what they should have been doing. And I don't think Americans would have been against Mayorkas being bye-bye. Most Americans are not for open borders like what's going on. They're just simply not. And it would have been a slam dunk to just impeach Mayorkas. As you brought up, this is why Republicans can't stand Republicans.
Well, not even Latinos or Latins, however you want to say it. They say Latinos out west, Latins in Miami. Okay, I've lived in both places. And this is what is at issue here, is that even, people who came to this country legitimately and went through immigration procedures, the Cubans, Venezuelans, and others, even they resent these people coming into the country. They're endangering their kids and their lives. And Trump is gathering more and more Latino support as this thing goes forward. Not only that, because of the economic conditions in this country. So this is a serious matter, but the Republicans don't want to go for the jugular, much like Biden won't go for the jugular with Iran. It's flip sides of the same coin. But, this is part and parcel to our government today. It's why we need a new government and not a new nation. It's why we need ethical leaders. And it's why the American people themselves need to rise up. Now, there's a case that's going on right now that the Biden administration brought against Governor Greg Abbott in Texas because, he buses some of these migrants to other cities. He's put up barbed wire at the borders. But even that wasn't enough. He himself likes to see this situation because it strengthens him politically. Texas certainly has a National Guard. It has Texas Rangers. I represent one of them who was shot across the border by a Mexican policeman in his private part, which has been going on. He was trying to arrest a drug trafficker. But even the governor of Texas, even Republicans, like to see this situation because it emboldens them politically and it will help them in the election. Neither side wants to solve the issue. So in that respect, Mayorkas is right. Except the fact is that his side's doing nothing. Your thoughts?
No, listen, you're completely right. I mean, I don't know how, how many different ways they could say it, but these Republicans are not fit for office for the most part. They're just simply not. I don't know what the solution is right now because, well, we need Republicans. I don't know what for anymore, Larry, but we have some serious issues going on that they haven't been willing to discuss, or from race to the border to all these different things that they shy away from. They always think, oh, we'll win the House back, or we'll win the Senate back, or what does it matter, Larry, if you don't do anything while you actually have that power? Democrats get into power and they run, they rule. It's not the way I like it, but that's what they do. And you could go and listen to any Sunday morning show. You have 10 Democrats on, they all say the same thing. You have 10 Republicans on, Larry, you have 10 different messages going on. That's the Republican Party.
Well, not just that, they cater to who they're on with. I mean, for instance, Fox News today, you can't discuss January 6th anymore because they've been hit with two major lawsuits. One, they paid almost $1 billion to settle. There's another one, Symantec, coming down the line. So you can't talk about January 6th. When Obama was president, you couldn't say that he was half Muslim or all Muslim to try to explain his actions towards Israel and towards others. You know, you get this censorship from all sides. And then these Republicans that come on, they go on there mainly for fundraising. They don't want to, you know, take Fox on head on. So they just say, I agree. And they walk off fat and happy. I mean, Jim Jordan, who's the head of the Judiciary Committee, this is getting back to the judges, and I've said this before. Why isn't he impeaching some of these judges that are persecuting January 6 people? Why has there not been one impeachment proceeding since he's been chairman of the Judiciary Committee? Yet he goes on with his sleeves rolled up, ex-Ohio State wrestling coach. Of course, he had his own issues there, which the Democrats dig up from time to time. And, you know, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. We're doing X, Y, Z, you know, give to us. And so that's what it's become, is that the Democrats are a corrupt racketeering enterprise, and the Republicans are a corrupt money-raising enterprise. And there is no alternative, as many people see it, to voting one way or the other, but there should be. And look at, you know, Bobby Kennedy Jr., he's got 22% of Democrat voters, and the Democrats are doing their best to destroy him. And any third-party candidates on the Republican side are not even heard of. No one even knows who they are. Yet we don't have competition in this country. We have what's in effect an oligopoly between two major parties who feed off of each other for money and power. And that is a formula for revolution. Now, I had to laugh, you know, it's not funny, and I don't advocate attacking judges, obviously, or anything physical or peaceful and legal. But there was a situation this week in Nevada where a criminal defendant lurched over the bench at a judge, screaming profanities as he did it. He obviously wanted to convince the judge that he was mentally insane because he had been advocating pro se to go to a mental institution rather than prison. But I'll tell you something, that, you know, in that limited context, I believe we're going to see more people getting violent in this country, and it's frightening. And I believe that federal judges are at risk because people are beginning to see just how compromised and corrupt they are. And but you know, we've all had our experiences in court, and it is a frightening experience because these judges, and if you're a lawyer, you're even more scared than your clients, because you know how compromised they are and how they think, and that is scary. In the land of the free, our legal system is an absolute corrupt, disgusting mess. In the federal courts and the state courts less so because they're accountable, you know, at the ballot box. Most of the judges in Florida and state court are pretty good. But on the federal system, man, I would be afraid to walk into court with any of these judges. Judah?
No, you're completely right. I mean, it's a terrifying thing. I listen, what is the best way when you think about it? This, Larry, this isn't being done accidentally. This is all a concerted effort that the left has been planning and plotting for 60 years, at least. And that's apathy. And, you know, they constantly, you know, refer to January 6th as an insurrection or whatever, or a coup. Was there any guns, Larry? Were there any weapons? And I'm being honest when I ask you that. Were there any weapons?
Not even Proud Boys or Oath Keepers had guns. Not even
right.
that.
So is the first insurrection and coup in history with no weapons. Please, somebody explain that to me. How come no Republican ever brings that up? Are you that scared to talk about the fact that there were no weapons there that day? That's not an insurrection, Larry. That's at best a protest that got out of hand, but no weapons, and nobody talks about that. And when you look at what they've done for the better part of 60 years, destroying our courts, destroying all these things, you're right. It brings apathy. And I don't know how much longer the Republicans can control a certain faction of their party, and this will get out of hand. I don't see an other way out of it. I wish I didn't see another way out of it, but Larry, but if we continue down this path where people are getting 10 years, 20 years, 30 years in prison for simply walking into the Capitol on a day, we're in a lot of trouble.
Well, the reason it goes on and on and on, and I say this, and that's the title of my book, Takes Account of Revolution, Wake Up America. Second part is more important than even the first part, Wake Up America, is that most people who have the financial wherewithal, not our supporters, but most people in this country just want to live out their life, have a good time, and don't want to be bothered. And they don't want to see reality. And frankly, they could care less about their kids or grandkids or future generations because they're living in a dream world. They think everything's going to change, and it's not going to change. And that's the tragedy here, is that most people are asleep at the wheel. And as this country is going down the drain, I've often said they're sitting on the deck of the Titanic listening to chamber music as the ship of state is sinking. So we're going to be right back with the verdict section of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Stay tuned. It's a good discussion with Judah Friedman, but I want you to go to freedomwatchusa.org. We really need the help financially right now. The Republicans have siphoned away a lot of contributions with their fraudulent fundraising, frankly. And we need to get bigger. We need more lawyers, paralegals in office space to be your Justice Department, which we are. We'll be right back. Now the verdict, ladies and gentlemen, patriots, people of faith, those who believe in the vision and creation of our founding fathers. We're now into January of 2024. We have an election coming up, a national election in November. People are looking at that and they're saying, send me the political messiah to lead us to the promised land, whether it's Moses or Jesus or whoever it may be, depending on whether you're Jewish, Christian, or maybe if you're Muslim, you're asking for Muhammad to return. But this is the situation that we find ourselves in, is that do we sit back and wait for someone to come and save us other than God? I think not. And even Donald Trump, who I voted for twice, and just from a personal perspective, may vote for again for a third time if he gets that far. That's a big if right now. The fact is that even he cannot save this country by himself. And when he had the opportunity as president, he didn't use all the levers of power. He kept getting bad advice from people in and around him to go the conventional route. He always defaulted back to the Republican establishment looking for help. And those people which he had in the White House, by and large, betrayed him. Even the daughter of a very good friend of mine, Joseph Farah, Alyssa Farah, these people betrayed him. And they're continuing to betray him. She didn't do it in a major way, just to get herself on The View. She had to change her views to do that. Convenient in your broadcasting career, I might add. But this is the situation that we find ourselves in, is that Trump will not lead us to the promised land, even if he's president. And we have to do it for ourselves. And that's why I keep saying, please join us, our Justice League at Freedom Watch. It may sound self-serving, but yours truly is unafraid. And we need to be unafraid. We're not naked, but we're unafraid, like the TV show. But we will be naked and stripped of everything that we care about and everything that we own or cherish, our loved ones in particular, if we don't rise up. So Judah, take it away here and give us.
I just want, yeah, you bring up something very interesting, and sorry, because I just got a text as we're talking, and you bring up something amazing, and it's, look at the people right now that have helped cause change, right? Everybody, you're right. It has to be a citizen soldier. So you take Bill Ackman from Pershing Capital, right? He is the one that's been relentlessly going after Harvard and the DEI and other universities. He has single-handedly changed the landscape of universities around the country. So if people don't think they could cause change, they can. Look at what he's done. If it wasn't for Bill Ackman, Claudine Gay is still I know she's getting paid $1 million a year, but she's still the president of Harvard, if not for Bill Ackman. And we really need to recognize people like Bill Ackman, Elon Musk, and other people that have been willing to lose everything for what they believe in.
Well, go back and read the book Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, where John Galt left with industrialists, academics, artists, whoever, checked out of what became a socialist world like we see today, socialist atheist world, only to come back and to save the country. And that tells you something, is that there comes a point when the government becomes so irreparably corrupt and broken that you have to simply divorce it. There needs to be a divorce, and you need to move on. We certainly did that, you know, in the Revolutionary War to some extent. It occurred in the Civil War when the North divorced the South and vice versa. And it's time that the American people realize that they have to do it for themselves. So that's my message. It's my continual message. I try to drive it in every single day. So please go to Freedom Watch, because you know, we even joined the National Security Agency from illegal surveillance. We ended the illegal amnesty of Obama of 5 million illegal aliens. We've done many things as American citizens, and if you will join us, I believe that you will be proud to help us restore this country to greatness and to prevent us from going into the tank, which is where we're going now. So thank you all for listening to us. Thank you, Judah, for participating in this show and other shows. And we'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Remember that God will only help us if we help ourselves. Thank you for listening.